As K-pop enters a new chapter, we'll look at how it's reconnecting with Korean audiences while reshaping the global music scene. Hello and welcome to Wednesday's edition of Press Perspective for August 19th here in Seoul. I'm Min Sun-hee. As K-pop reaches a new phase where Korean audiences are reclaiming a stronger connection to the music, global fans are demanding greater inclusion while countries around the world are drawing inspiration from the Korean wave. Today we explore how the industry is changing at home and abroad and what comes next for K-culture. For this, our freelance reporter David Lee here in the studio. David, it's been a while. Welcome back.
Good to see you, Sunny.
I also have Chloe Borgnon with French broadcaster France 24 here in the studio with us. Chloe, it's lovely to have you here.
Hello, thank you for having me again.
David, let's start with your latest article. You wrote about the popularity of Korean girl group RESCENE. What does it mean for K-pop to be reclaiming the K, so to speak?
Yeah, so really, K-pop has had a huge global following, for over a decade, and there have been fans around the world for a long time. But it was really when BTS, with their mega hit Dynamite in 2020, and they topped the Billboard charts. That's when really K-pop started to prioritize overseas activities, I guess promotions over domestic activities and appearing on TV programs and such and music programs. So this group, like you said, RESCENE, or most global fans call them RESCENE. This group, they're really from this small agency called the Muse Entertainment. The agency was considered a startup company when it started, and this group they had about 2 years of not being really recognized by the public, and they even performed at field days in an elementary school, pro bono, and they were also noted performing in the community center when they had no activities scheduled for them. But now today, their song "Love Attack" I think has topped the domestic music charts for I think maybe close to a month now. They've become the faces of global brands like Domino's. Recently they were playing in the halftime of the Kupang series with Manchester City and Atletico Madrid. So they've become really what I consider to be a national group, what K-pop fans call a national group. And I think it's really been a long time since South Korea has had one of those what we call national groups. And these groups are what people is when the country really considers the members of a group to be their younger sisters. They also look at them as daughters or sons in the case of boy groups. But at the same time, they're also these idols that many of these people idolize. So what makes RESCENE really distinct from other major groups that have gone abroad and have topped and have dominated charts and have brought in millions of fans overseas is that RESCENE, their popularity really comes from being distinctly Korean, really tapping into their Korean heritage. And obviously they have a Japanese member, Minami, who's from Japan, but even for her, she really tapped into the trend in Korea of really liking Japanese culture. So they're not really the perfectly polished idols that come from these major entertainment agencies like HYBE or YG Entertainment, but yes, like I said, they're really tapped into their Korean heritage. And even recently, I saw an interview with 17-member Vernon, who he even said that K-pop these days, it's really becoming undistinguishable with pop music these days. In terms of the style of music. It's just in the way that they present themselves. That these K-pop stars, they're becoming a little bit more like these more Western, let's say Western pop musicians, pop stars. And I think that kind of points to the sign that the identity of K-pop today, I think it's a little bit mixed. It's not the same as it was 10 years ago, and I think it's really changing at a fast pace. But RESCENE really reminds that K-pop's roots, that K-pop really started from its home, which is South Korea. So just to give an example, four of the five members, because Minami is Japanese, he's from Japan, but all four members who are from Korea, they became ambassadors of their respective hometowns. So, Wonnie, she's from Koje, and even Koje, they even reported a boost in tourism just due to the popularity of the group. And then other members from Suwon, Ilsan, and Gyeongju, they also became ambassadors of their hometowns. So I really think that RESCENE, they're really satisfying the Korean fans who were a little bit, they felt sidelined by the global popularity of K-pop. I think RESCENE really they really satisfied these fans longing for a sense of place for K-pop and attributing K-pop to Korea.
Right. Chloe, what more can you tell us about the popularity behind RESCENE here in South Korea?
Yeah, so RESCENE is from, well, when this debuted, we're from a label that was kind of new, so smaller or mid-sized agency. And this is probably one of the big things that will explain a part of their identity, as David was touching upon. So, for example, the fact that it was not with a big production, so there was not a strong and marketing and communication team that would, as David was saying, in the biggest production, they deliver like polished and clean new idols. Here, it's been a bit different. So you can feel, for example, they kind of got famous again, like really started to getting famous these days because of a video that was posted on social medias of Won Iso, the leader, who was in Koje with Minami, and they were both talking and enjoying the time, and everyone started sharing snippets of it and talking about it, and it's kind of the new ways of discovering groups now and becoming fans through short form platform, and then also the algorithm driven discoveries. So if you're interested in K-pop or in some specific groups, for example, then from watching more and more content, obviously your social medias are going to show you new groups. And even myself, I know that I've been seeing, even if I'm not that much into K-pop itself, I'm not searching for the groups, but I've seen quite a few of them. I know that Mamamoo, for example, also got a resurgence of a new fandom through those fan cams and things like this. I've seen them, for example, most of my knowledge about them, or Stray Kids is from what my social media would feed me. So it's what's happening to a lot of people, actually. And the second thing will be also the fact that because the label is smaller size, they also can't do a big world tour. They can't do massive advertisement. They can send them on the best shows to speak about themselves. So there's a need to find other way to connect. And it's true that experts and people who are liking their group, like RESCENE, they're saying that their contents also feel distinctly human. So it's true in the lyrics that they're writing. It's also true if you watch some of the music video clips. They are very much softer, probably less money has been put in it compared to some of the biggest hits, but then it gives another feeling to the song, and you will probably remember it more because it's kind of refreshing in these days.
Right, I see. David, you previously cited English lyrics as one reason behind the declining popularity of K-pop here in South Korea. What have you been observing since then?
Yeah, and I really think this goes back to how the norm of streaming music has changed these days. So music today is really consumed through these online platforms such as YouTube, TikTok, and Spotify. So, there's more emphasis on physical album sales, which are significantly seen in overseas markets. As you know, these physical albums today, you don't really listen to CDs, or you don't really need CDs to listen to music. So these overseas fans, because they have limited exposure to these idols in real time, they will buy these physical albums as memorabilia. And an industry estimate, it says that, according to an industry estimate, it says that overseas concerts accounted for nearly 50% of all sales in the K-pop industry last year. So it just really tells you how the market of K-pop is really concentrated, focused on the overseas market. And I think this goes back to your question of this balancing act between, having activities at home in South Korea and also spending time overseas where the market is. But frankly speaking, South Korea just doesn't really have the population or the amount of fans to really satisfy this market demand of today in the K-pop industry. This leads to even some agencies producing groups who, before they debut, they train so that they have the goal of debuting overseas rather than at home, which is something 10 years ago you would not think about in the K-pop industry. So it really tells you how things are changing so fast today. So this also leads to domestic fans who, as I previously mentioned, they feel sidelined by the amount of activities overseas. These agencies giving more priority to overseas activities, world tours. So for domestic fans, it's really becoming harder to see their favorite idols going to work at a broadcast station, which was a norm back in the days. So fans would line up in front of broadcast stations to catch glimpses of their favorite idols walking by. They would wave to them, take pictures. And it's also led to less fan signing events and other fan events in South Korea. And so today what you have is some of these major groups, they'll be dominating charts overseas, like they'll be dominating the Billboard charts, but at home, they won't necessarily be considered like a national group. They'll have less, popularity, if you can say, at home than abroad. And I think a really good example of the distinction between the effects of having more overseas activities for these top idols is that you can see with Blackpink's recent 10th year anniversary, a lot of the Blinks, their global fan base, they were very disappointed and they were very critical of how Blackpink and YG Entertainment didn't really put too much focus on their 10th year anniversary, which is a very big milestone in the K-pop industry. Something that, some groups that will go on world tours, they will open concerts just because of the 10th anniversary. But Blackpink, they really didn't even post that much content on their social media accounts. And after they received this kind of backlash from their fan base, the 4 members of Blackpink, they didn't make time to come together in Korea. But I think only for a day. And after their event with fans, they went back overseas because all 4 members, they're global superstars now, so they have so many promotions and activities abroad. Their schedule is very limited, so it really tells you the state of the K-pop industry for these top groups, and and how they're really at no choice of choosing between going overseas and promoting more at home.
Right. Then perhaps because of that particular reality, Chloe, several major K-pop groups are now reportedly giving priority to domestic fan clubs for concert ticketing. This, of course, in itself has triggered quite a bit of debate. Could you tell us more?
Yeah, so the idea is, for example, recently Stray Kids for their next concert in Korea, so obviously speaking about the Korean concerts, they decided that the first day would be only ticketing for the Korean based fan club, and on the next day the international fan club would be able to also access the ticketing events. So the idea behind that is mostly to find a way to fight against scalpers. So the people will buy a lot of tickets, great numbers of tickets, and once the event is sold out, they are able, because people still are in demand, they are able to sell those tickets at quite a higher price. So there's been quite a lot of elements that have been put in place by the government itself, by the labels as well, by the ticketing agency, to try to avoid the scalpers. But so this is one of the idea there would be to make sure that if you are in Korea able to buy for yourself and showing your identity, then you can't be buying it and selling it to someone else. The problem is that to do that for international fans, when you're buying something in Korea on Korean website, you need to prove your identity, and that goes through having a Korean phone number where you can receive a short message to be able to get a specific code showing that it's you. The problem is if you don't live in Korea or if you don't have a Korean phone number, then you're left out, and that's what the foreign fans, so the people, not especially foreigners living here in Korea, but foreign fans outside internationally, are thinking that it's kind of a discrimination for them, because among the people who want to go to the concert, there's not only people who live in Korea, there's also people who would come to Korea for the event itself. And we saw it, for example, with the BTS comeback and the different concerts that they did. We had a lot of international fans coming to Korea, especially for those dates, and then staying for tourism as well.
Right. David, moving forward, after BTS announced a Grammy boycott, the Recording Academy reportedly signaled a possible review of the Asian pop category. I wonder, what's your takeaway from this event?
Yes, so earlier this week, CEO Harvey Mason Jr., he's the CEO of the Recording Academy, which hosts the Grammy Awards annually. He said that he's talked with his stakeholders, and that they came to a conclusion that a lot of these artists that they talk to a lot of the representatives of the Asian market in South Korea, in Japan, and in China for 2 weeks, and on and on. And they heard that a lot of these representatives, they felt misrepresented by the creation of the category Best Asian Pop Music Performance. And one of the big criticisms of the Grammys over the years is that it has today it has 100 categories for its categories that award these musicians. As we know, BTS they went online, they went public, and said that they were not going to submit any music to the Grammys this year. So it really seems like, as you mentioned, the Grammys is a bit kind of backtracking due to the overwhelming public consensus that, yes, they did maybe make a mistake in creating this category, which really clumps all of these Asian artists into this one category. From my perspective, I really see BTS cementing themselves as the leader of K-pop, maybe even the wider region of Asian music. I think really BTS said that they're taking charge and they're standing up for what's something that they believe, and that many other musicians see eye to eye. But I think what really took me what really made me notice, what I really noticed from this case is that it's just BTS's ability to start these social discussions, these debates, and I really think they're unmatched, in the world for their ability to do this as musicians. Their boycott did not only gain support from fellow K-pop groups and agencies, but even artists and groups from subgenres like hip hop, rock, Latin music, who have also felt sidelined by the Grammys in the past. They also chimed in the conversation. They also agreed that the Grammys should do better, in categorizing and organizing their award show, which is arguably the most influential event for music today. So as we all know, the global fan base of BTS, the ARMY, they're really known to be activists in these social situations. They were activists, they played a part in the Black Lives Matter movement. They made considerable aid during the COVID pandemic. They support global mental health programs, and they were rushing to the aid of the Australian brushfire recovery. Regardless of the intentions of the Grammys, I know that they came out and said that we really wanted to push diversity for the musicians around the world. But I really think, and I think they also realize that they may have made a mistake with the creation of the category. Like I said, it's a little bit too broad to clump all these regions and all these musicians into this one group. And maybe maybe there would have been less controversy if they just made a category for K-pop itself, as some of the other major American music shows like the MTV Music Awards and the American Music Awards does. And I know that it may be a little bit too late for BTS to maybe submit their music again, or for the Grammys to take back on their category, as the submissions to submit is this Friday. But even without a historic win at the Grammys, I think BTS really walks away with a big victory for themselves as a K-pop group. You know, for one, they stood up against the Grammys, which really these global musicians like Drake and The Weeknd have done in the past, kind of cementing BTS in the same level. They really prove that they don't really need awards for publicity. You know, they've got more publicity from this, from maybe even, you know, topping the Billboard charts. And they really showed their influence to the world. And I think BTS, they're the winners of this debate.
Right, indeed, then. Meanwhile, Chloe, the success of the Korean wave is inspiring cultural policies around the world. What aspects of Korea's cultural policy do you suppose are drawing international attention?
So I would say it's mostly, obviously, the government element of it that's the most inspiring for all the countries, especially the way our South Korea government is trying to transform K-culture into one of the national economic engines. So the idea is, I've been covering it, for example, for France 24 on Kpop Demon Hunter, the video, like the movie from Netflix, or the BTS comeback as well. We know that those success stories are bringing in tourists, and they're bringing in money as well, because people come to visit, they come to buy, or even abroad. The Hallyu is just being amplified by this kind of elements. And so the goal from the South Korean government will be to attract 40 million annual visitors, foreigners. Currently, they are expecting 23 million people this year, and this is a specific year because of the BTS comeback. So, you know, this is quite an ambitious goal. How they want to do that is different things. So they want to develop some new infrastructures, for example, big stadiums where you could go see only K-pop concerts, where the elements would be made so that you can have a very big crowd in the best decorum possible to be able to get the best music out of it. And also financial support. So, for example, they are making a fund for 10 small and mid-sized agency for K-pop that would be helped through the government through getting loans, for example, or help through intellectual property, because obviously when you want to go global and you want to go abroad, you need to be protecting well your intellectual property. And the other thing that's also been seen and talked about quite a lot, I think, is the choice to draw strengths from cultural elements. This is also interesting for a lot of countries that also have their own strong cultural elements, and they want to show them so that you don't only have Hollywood against the rest of the world. So this is, for example, the case again with BTS and their album called Arirang, or Kpop Demon Hunter, even though it was done through a Canadian studio, there were still a lot of Korean elements, and we can see it with, for example, the goods at the National Museum now are selling out so quickly because people have an interest now for Korean culture even more than before, and this is something that could be very interesting to other countries.
Right, indeed. I'm afraid that's all the time we have. Chloe, as always, thank you so much for your time and your thoughts.
Thank you.
David, thank you very much for your insights.
It was great to be here.
Right then, as K-culture continues to evolve, the question now is how Korea's cultural influence across the globe, of course, will shape its next chapter. Thank you for watching.